Barend, welcome. So we're going to discuss zero admin related recruitment topics in this episode today. We've spoken to a lot of customers. We got a lot of requests on LinkedIn on questions. Hey, can you answer this question for me? Can you answer that question for me? And we collected the most common questions that came to us. And in this episode, we just want to go over them and answer them pretty straight to the point. So the first thing that we want to discuss is maybe the most obvious one. That is the admin problem in recruitment. And the question that we got asked oftenly is, why is the recruitment process so admin heavy? So what's your answer to that?
Yeah, why, right? Everyone hates it and still we do it. I think it's very simple. It's two reasons. One, organizations, they all claim that their employees are their most important asset. So if you are a recruiter, you basically define the success of an organization. So if you have the right candidate and you want to present that candidate, then you want to do it right. And that means spending time in creating documentation and creating the rationale that helps to make sure that this candidate is hired and not another one. So that's, I think, number one. And number two is there is scarcity of talent today. So if you talk to someone that is available, that is competent, but you don't document the information of that person, then all that information is lost. So it's like you say there is scarcity in the labor market. You find a qualitative good candidate, and then after the meeting, you just throw all the information away. So I think that's number two, to preserve valuable talent for the future. So presenting and making sure your talent pool is alive, that just takes time. Now, it doesn't take time, it took time.
Yeah. Well, I would love to add a third one. Recruitment, in the end, it's mostly conversations. So if you look at admin tasks that people need to do, we need to, if you don't document or write down or administer this information that you're writing down, it will be vaporware, it will be lost the moment conversations end. And if you're a recruiter, the majority of your time is having conversations with people. And that information needs to be brought to systems, Excel sheets, documents, to let other people review it. So I think that's also an essential thing why this recruitment process is so admin heavy.
Definitely.
Okay, Barend, another question that we need to discuss is, what is the impact of a non-AI enabled recruitment process on agency recruiters and their candidates?
Yeah. I think the process as we normally see it, the setup didn't change over the last decade. So it works, right? It's not that you can't hire people. I think what you just don't do is benefit from the opportunities out there. And that means that the process takes way more time than it should be. It also forces valuable people like recruiters to work on things that are, not making their life better or making the job better. And I also think it's not positive for the candidates because, candidates, they share so much with recruiters. They basically explain completely where they come from, where they want to go to. And then if they're not hired, often that information is just gone. So I think also to make sure you serve candidates well, you need to make a step forward and get into this new reality.
Yeah, I think the current setup, the biggest negative impact I can think of is that you turn your recruiters into robots. You let them do things, a lot of admin work, repetitive tasks that they should not be doing. If you ask a recruiter 30 years ago, what was the main thing that you're doing? The recruiter would tell you, I'm connecting with people, that's why I'm doing it. The negative impact of the current setup is that they became almost robots to bring information from system A to system B. That is what the AI enabled setup will actually bring, is that it will turn those robots into humans again. And that is a benefit for the recruiter because the job will get much, much more fun and bearable. But the candidate feels that as well, because in conversations, you have a lot more genuine attention for people.
Yeah.
Okay, Barend, another question that we need to discuss that we hear quite often is, we talk about all these solutions now in a new reality, but the question is, why has this problem not been solved yet to date?
And I think that's a valid question. If the problem is so big, why don't you just solve it earlier? Where were we in the last decade, right? Simple answer, it was technically not possible. We didn't have the technical infrastructure and the technical capabilities to automate the processes that we're automating today.
Yeah. And why and how can AI solve this problem now?
Well, in our previous podcast, we talked a lot about turning unstructured data into structured data, that for the first time, computers and systems can actually speak the language of human beings instead of human beings being forced into the language of computers. Listen back to that podcast. I think it's a pivotal moment in the history of technology. That's what changed. We have now capabilities to, for example, take a meeting and let a computer understand what has been discussed. 5 years ago, that was just not possible.
Yeah. And how, in the context of recruitment, is that solving a problem right now?
Like in many cases, the problem of admin 4 years ago, if you talk about the admin load of recruitment, it was just, as they say, like a fait accompli. It was just the way it was. So it was a
Hmm.
problem, but people only perceive something as a problem if they foresee there is a way to fix it. And
Yep.
that changed. That's what changed in the last few years. That for the first time we can really address the reality of admin as a problem of admin because we can solve it.
Basically, we all now see what the limited execution generating capabilities of humans are, right?
Exactly.
So, we talk often about not only with clients but also with people from the industry. You have generic AI solutions and custom AI solutions, also in the context of recruitment. And why do you believe custom AI solutions, especially industry specific AI solutions, are the way to go?
We talk about AI, and it's still it's not a mature technology right now. So the AI will just work way better if you give it specific tasks instead of trying to build something that can solve everything. And it's the same with humans, right? You have all these different professions, and a lot of people that listen to our podcast, they are recruiters, and that's why they are really good at it. They are trained to be great recruiters, and probably a lot of them, yeah, they can't fix their car if it's broken. It's the same with AI. If you train it for one specific task, it will execute the task at 100%. And that's why it's great that if you work with AI for the first time, use something generic just to play around, make some images, do some stuff on ChatGPT. But if you want to solve a problem and you want to hand over responsibility to a system, then choose something that's trained for that specific task.
Yeah, and I think what we often see is the generic solutions. Let's look at a generic meeting solution. It can impress you the first time you get a meeting summary, even from an interview. You think, oh, that's nice. But if you think about this software that you use should be an extension of you, and you should use this in your day to day for the next 5 to 10 years. Then that first aha moment is like great, even with a generic solution. But to make it part of your day to day, it needs to really understand you in the context of where you work. And that's why I think custom solutions will always win in specific industry use cases.
Exactly. You want an extension of a recruiter and not a generic tool.
Yeah. So then we go. Let's talk about this because obviously we speak to a lot of recruiting agencies. We see that in their adoption of new solutions, they are really fast for the simple reason that it is immediately impacting their bottom line. And a question that we got asked often is, where does AI fit in their recruitment tech stack, especially in relation to the ATS and integrations with the ATS? How do you see that?
I think you can look at that question from a functional perspective and from a technical perspective. So functionally, AI or Carve or whatever tool you choose, it should be there where it solves the biggest problem. Well, what we obviously see is that the admin load is a huge problem. So from a functional perspective, it should be in the process steps where there is a lot of admin work. Technically, what we always advise is integrate it with your existing tech stack. Make sure that you don't have yet another point solution where people have to go to and log in and work in, but make sure that it is embedded in your process so you can, yeah, maximize from the impact that it has.
Yeah, exactly. And Do you still see the ATS as the central point then?
For most agencies, the ATS is this what they call the single source of truth, or the central access point of information. So if you have AI that produces information, for example, Carve, then make sure that that information lands at the locations where other users will look for that information. And in recruitment, that's often the ATS.
Okay, so if you look at a company that's zero admin and AI enabled, can you explain in which way that changes the day of a recruiter?
I think, for me personally, I think the biggest impact is the focus on the candidate. Obviously, there is this time efficiency, and it will save you a lot of money, and you will get a lot more production done in a month. But I think what changes the most is the way the candidate experiences the process. That you can now finally have in-depth conversations with candidates without typing at the same time and without being busy with, for example, admin tasks.
Yeah.
So Matthijs, obviously you talk to a lot of our customers. What do you see is the biggest impact for companies that choose AI, that agencies that are AI led?
Yeah. I think the biggest impact is that it's a time saver. And even if we talk to customers, usually you need to make huge business cases and you need to be complex thinking on how do we, if we invest in the technology, how do we make our money, get our money back. But in this case, it's very simple. A recruitment agency can easily calculate or ask questions to a recruiter from each interview or job intake that you have with a client. How much time after the conversation does it take you to create job descriptions, get candidate profiles ready, the write-ups for the customers ready, and recruiters can easily say that and explain that. We had a use case talk to the customer last week that said each conversation before Carve took us 30 minutes of follow-up after each conversation, and we now give that time back to our recruitment team with using Carve. And they have a recruitment team of 15 people doing 4 interviews per day. So that business case there is we win with an AI-enabled process 2 hours per person per day, which in
Yeah,
my opinion is like incredible.
that's huge. But you only achieve this if there is, I mean, we built tech companies before. You only achieve this if the end user also embraces the process. And
Yep.
what is your experience there? What is your feedback there on how recruiters adopt these kind of technologies?
Well, I think the let's be honest, the innovation rate, the things that we're now seeing with AI and how fast that's going, um, the innovation rate of humans and change rate of humans, they are not growing with the innovation rate of technology. They are not going in the same speed. So there's always a change aspect to this. The good news is we work with a lot of recruitment agencies. That's also why they are always first in these innovations, and then the in-house teams come because they have an like intrinsic motivation to always progress because it's impacting the bottom line. So if I'm a recruiter at an agency and I have a target and I need to place candidates, everything that actually is giving me more time to speak to more candidates or to reach out to more customers, I will embrace it by default because it actually helps me to achieve my target and I immediately impact the bottom line of the company.
Yeah,
We see that agencies are then the first ones to embrace. The more innovative in-house teams, they have an indirect business case, which is obviously direct, but they think it's indirect. They will always come a little slower. But we saw this with our last company too, Barend, with volume hiring. The agencies were the first ones to embrace it because they had an intrinsic motivation to improve the bottom line.
yeah.
Okay, Barend. Obviously, we get a lot of requests. They're not even clients. Like people that know and companies that know we need to do something with AI, but we don't know what. If you have one advice or multiple advices to companies, what are the steps you can take today to become zero admin in recruiting? What would you do?
Yeah, obviously just start with simple tools that are out there. Start with tools that are maybe free to use or that you can try, so at least you can learn what the capabilities are. And this is something that everyone in the organization can do. You don't depend on management in order to take that first step. I also think if you look at people asking those questions, it's not always leadership. It's often individual recruiters that ask, hey, I'm working as this organization. I know the management is working on a strategic plan, but is there something, how can you work around it? And so I think everybody can start tomorrow to learn. And then the next step is to participate in the discussions. I don't believe that there is any serious agency out there where there is no discussion going on the impact of AI on their company. And if
Yeah.
there is an agency like this, maybe quit your job and go work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Be part of the discussion, think how it could improve, and then after playing around a bit, start taking incremental steps forward. So talk to companies like Carved or other interesting companies out there, learn a lot, and then define a strategic roadmap. And you don't have to do everything in 1 month or do everything tomorrow, but make a plan how to become zero admin or AI led in 12 months and then take step forwards.
Yeah.
So obviously we built Carve and we built our product out of a vision, and then we landed in the hand of users. And maybe an interesting question to you, Matthijs. If it then all comes alive and it works and they're working with Carve for, let's say, 3 months, what is their new reality? How do they talk about their new reality to you when you have update calls with them?
Yeah. When I speak to recruiters, it's very easy how they explain it to me because they always say, "I will explain you exactly what my day was before using Carve and what my day looked like after using Carve." And I mentioned this more often in our podcast, but I think it really comes to life if you explain to that like that because a recruiter would usually do 4 interviews a day, and they would block 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. And how would the morning look like usually is you prepare your interview, you do the interview, take notes during the interview. That's you all done manually. When your interview stops, it's done. You get a coffee and you start writing reports, filling your ATS fields to get that information into a system. That takes you, let's say, on average, 30 minutes. Then you have 30 minutes of preparation for your next conversation, and then your second interview starts, and the same thing will happen as what happened with the first interview. So their day to day, they are doing conversations, admin, conversations, admin. What happens with the AI enabled process is that we trained AI to take over those admin tasks. So, what is the reality of the candidate, the recruiter? During a conversation, they're only in connection with the candidate. They don't even have to take notes. They open their laptop, they do the conversation, and after the conversation, the output is ready in Carve. They don't have to do anything. The only thing that they can do is a simple final check. And usually that sometimes you do a few minutes, a few edits, which is fine. It's a matter of minutes. And then your next conversation starts. One of our clients, actually there's a video case of it, it's on our website as well, said it actually changed that I do one conversation per day extra with Carve. And well, think about that. I think one is even there, the potential is even more. But how it changed your day to day is that you have a more fun day because nobody likes the admin work. Your ATS is always pre-filled with the right data. You don't have to do it. Carve actually makes that better. And the third one, which in my opinion is pretty critical, the candidate will experience much more genuine attention during this process instead of you hitting your keyboard
Yeah.
all the time to get the information into systems. Because if we're all honest, a lot of recruiters just open the ATS during an interview and they start pre-filling in the fields during the conversation. And that's I think something nobody wants. We get like very polluted ATS systems and distracted recruiters while they're in conversations with their most important asset, which is the candidate.
Yeah. Well, that's why we built the software. So great to
Yeah.
hear.